to raise the roof or something to get the
Yeah.
energy going here. It's a brisk October morning, and I'm excited to meet the team and have the conversation. So yeah, thanks so much for having me part of this group. And okay, so I'm going to let's see here. I just want to share my screen as
I need
well.
to know, is that actually your dog? I know it's a picture right now, but
It is not, sadly. No. I love that dog. That dog gets so much attention. I know that if I ever have a dog, I'm going to call it Fluffy, and it's going to be that dog right there because everybody loves that dog. And yeah, so yeah, that's a great question. Okay, hold on here. Now I'm all flustered because we're talking about the dog. Now I have to switch to my mind. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Let's share this, and I'll flip it into presentation mode.
Nick, maybe
Yeah.
introduce yourself a bit, please. I didn't do any kind of an introduction of you, even though I do know you, but maybe give your background also.
Yeah, it's that'll be a pleasure. I'll do that right now, in fact. So
Thank you.
yeah, so there's my happy face. And so just so you know, I think now that I have it in presentation mode, I can't see the chat rooms. So if anybody's making comments through the chat, forgive me, I can't see them. Maybe Christine or someone can help me out if there's a question that appears. But
I can do that, or Brittany, you and
Britt,
I.
yeah, Britt, anyone who can keep an eye on that, or better still, there's this great little button on your Zoom that has a little microphone that says you can mute. Now the magic, wait for it, is what we'll do is we'll unmute it, and then we'll say, Nick, I have a question. And so that will work just fine. So we can do that too. Does that work for you? Hopefully for everyone. And the other ask I have, if at all possible, is for this conversation, do you mind putting your video or turning on your video? The reason why I ask that is because then I can see your faces, and it helps me gauge a little bit in terms of who am I talking to, where, just getting a sense if I'm losing you maybe, or if I'm asking questions, or you're asking questions, and I can see that from your face. So sometimes the visual is really helpful. So, but yes. So
I'm just driving now, Nick, so I'll turn my video on as soon as I get to the office.
Yes, that's perfectly fine. Yeah, no, and I think I see you in your van, or is that someone else? Oh, that's Ron C.
I think it's someone else. I'm still parked at my condo, but you might see me go by shortly.
Okay. So I got a few people here en route. That's all right. That'll work. Yeah. So Christine, to your point, so I'm Nick. I'm part of the WESC team. Prabha gives me the affectionate title as the token male on the advisory team, so I appreciate that. And also, so me personally, I bring about over 24 years of brand marketing experience, business strategy experience. And I've been doing that here in Saskatchewan. I also do quite a bit of projects across Canada, and I also have some international projects as well. And as I say, the range really varies. Businesses who are in startup mode, who are scaling up, diversifying across Canada or the planet. These are very familiar spaces to me. So I share that with you just to say that I've done this for a very long time, especially in the world of marketing and strategy. So in fact, I also heard, I just want maybe just to complete that thought, that when I'm not focused on West work, I also do run a company, a firm here in Saskatoon called Refresh. And it's the same thing. I focus a lot on marketing and business strategy. That's a heavy part of what I do. So it's my love, and a lot of the comments that you'll hear from me are from research, but also just from real world experiences, lessons from the trenches, so to speak. Um, one thing I was going to say is that I, I I think there's a lot of variety and thoughts in the room. I had a chance, and I'm familiar with the team, the board members. I had a small chance to take a peek at everybody's profile, and so I'm going to try to be as very much on point as succinct as I can. So if you, as I say, if there's questions, don't hesitate to ask, and I'm going to do my best to answer them for you. Okay, so I see you all there. Lots of people got the mute. Can I get a thumbs up or something to say you heard and we're good to go for the next step? All right, I got it. Sweet. Okay. So that was a little bit about me. We're going to move into the big picture of ops. We're going to talk about why it matters. But most importantly, we're going to talk about best practices. I want you to know something about what we're about to talk about. This is all custom made just for you. Best practices as it relates to COVID and how to return and build your business given circumstances of today. Just prior to me starting this presentation, I heard some comments about scaling and trying to figure out what are your next moves. I think I heard something about 9 weeks. And if it means anything to you also, we did a presentation back in May on COVID and the impact on business. And it's part of the WESC video library. So if you're interested in having a read or a listen to that, I'll strongly recommend you do listen to it, because what we did at WESC is we looked at impacts of pandemics and epidemics in the past. We said, we are often using language of unprecedented times, and people are saying, well, what do I do? But in fact, it's not so unprecedented in the sense that we have some history. We've seen pandemics and epidemics in the past. And guess what? They follow a pattern. So the research that we had done earlier on in this year, in May, is still quite relevant. So I strongly suggest if that's a conversation that's on your mind and thoughts that are on your mind, if you want to see it, maybe, I'm not going to say it's perfectly like reading an old book, but in a way, we have seen these patterns before. So do have a look at that and see if it makes sense to you. Okay. So just to reiterate, everything that you see here is custom made for this group and for the cohort. My goal here is to get everyone talking and having these dialogues together. First, I want you to have this conversation, talk with me. But then the second thing I want is, I hope this inspires a bit of your roundtable discussions, because really there's lots to be covered in a very short amount of time. I hope that I can at least just give you some of that inspiration to say, you know what, that sounds like something that's on my mind, and I wouldn't mind having a good conversation with that amongst my team. So I want to provoke that and make sure that that's something that you take out of this. And in specifically, what I want to do is focus on 5 operational priorities that businesses around the planet are doing. This is not sort of an introduction to operations. You know your operations. Again, I want to focus on the 5 priorities that everybody is either taking action on, or at least planning to do something immediately. Okay, so 5 things I want to make sure I impart in this conversation today. I don't have all the answers. I have some, and I have some theory. I have some real world examples that I can share. But I believe though your cohort has your back too. So I think that's where I want to say that we can use this opportunity as a way to communicate and share thoughts and talk amongst yourselves as well. Okay, so I want to leave you with some practical ideas and things to think about for your business. That's really where I want to go. So the one and only screen of theory, which is operations. And so just to be perfectly clear, ops is that bottom row starting from inbound logistics to services. It's the activities that you do on a regular basis that closely touches the customer. That's what we're focusing on. Ops, right? You see that ops square right there, that little blue box. Well, really, that is the activities that we do in the business, the things that we do to our material, the things that we have our people do, and it's all intended to help get us to complete certain functions, deliver what we say the business that we're in, and do it efficiently as possible. And efficiently as possible is the magic of operations. So we want to make sure that you are doing that. Now, different businesses have different priorities and different ways to optimize. I believe we've got some. Correct me if I'm wrong. We've got retail. We've got some retail in this cohort. Am I mistaken, or is that correct? Oh, and Christine is muted, but I think she's telling me something important. And here,
yeah, I would say I'm retail. I'm definitely bricks and mortar.
Right.
Me too.
Yep. Okay. Good stuff. Yeah. So a heavy part of especially when you're in retail, bricks and mortar type business, a big part is the challenge is how do you stock items customers want and at a price that they're happy to pay. That is a big part of it. If you're in the restaurant food business, it's similar to retail, but you have a challenge of shelf life. Products can expire on you, so it is similar, but it is different. And so the way that you go at things is a little bit different as well. Service companies, there's client facing, and then there's business related. I think there are some service companies, most certainly. I'm seeing Ashley, but I'm seeing WOW. So I know there's at least a couple of you who are in the service space. So client-facing, business-related challenges. How do you improve client interactions during this time, right? Or how do you just simply go from thanks for signing and doing a contract with us to shaking hands at the end and saying that was very successful? Well, in between, that's all operations, okay? If you make a product, physical parts projects, I think we got Debbie. Debbie, I don't know if you make the products, but tell me if I'm wrong. Do you make products as well, Debbie?
No, we don't. Well, other than making hydraulic hoses and whatnot out of products that we stock for customers, but no, we are not a manufacturer.
Okay. Yep. Okay, that's fair. The whole world. I was going to say that as it relates to operations, manufacturing is the birthplace of operations. They were the ones who had to talk about the old production lines and assembly lines, bottlenecks, and all those things. That's where the whole industry of ops came from in the first place. And if you're a digital company, and I know, let's see here. I think if we do have digital companies there. I'm thinking no. Tell me if I'm mistaken on that. But in digital, where it's 100% an electronic type of a solution, your biggest operation that you need to manage is managing the personnel and making sure that everybody is working in sync, so that you can maximize the amount of time in order to get things done efficiently. So what I'm trying to drive at is that in operations, everybody has interesting challenges, important challenges, but because of your industries being diverse, the operational challenge is not a case of one size fits all. So I say that really to say that, I don't know if you've ever seen this quote or not, but it's really the magic is in being able to execute efficiently and effectively. The research is out there. You can Google solutions for your industries and say, how do I do this? But that's not the magic. The magic is how you implement it and how you make it work for you. And so that to me is what I really wanted to emphasize in terms of the history of operations. Where I want to go next is, I mentioned that there's 5 priorities that all businesses across the planet are being focused on. Let's go there now and let's have that conversation. because operations, it's what we've learned already is that everybody's paying attention, saying, how do we reconfigure our ops? How do we transform them and make them workable for us amidst COVID life? Demands for products and services has completely changed in every sector. It has exposed weaknesses and fragility in supply chains. What was it? Thursday, I think it was, when Le Chateau announced that they're going to close down. Sadly, we know a number of other examples that are closer to home that have had that same challenge. So businesses are saying, and I hope this is you too, you've arrived in saying, well, COVID is here. We need to deal with this. So let's get it done. Let's grow. Let's take our business and let's leverage it, build it, and grow it, despite COVID. And so with that, lots of businesses are reconfiguring how they do things that they've been doing thus far. Businesses have boosted their e-commerce dramatically. They're making good money. And so with that, I think we need to take a look and see, what are we doing right here, this cohort, this team? So let's do that. The number one thing that businesses are doing across the planet is they're talking about operation resilience. What that means is there are potential shocks and disruptive things that can happen right now in you getting your product or service to your customer. Businesses are saying, what am I going to do so that I'm not going to, or I'm going to at least minimize the effect of, say, can't get stock in, labor issues. Everyone's asking this question. What are we going to do? How are we going to be resilient so that we can tackle these shocks and disruptive events? By the way, if it means anything to you, these slides will be available after the fact, so you don't have to write down a whole ton of notes or anything. They'll be available for you after this presentation. So just so you know. So let's get clear now. What's the resilience moves that companies are doing? Number one is they're taking a look to say, how can we move more and more things online, or multiple ways to do things online? So it's one thing to say, I wasn't online and now I'm going to be online. It's another thing to say, I'm online and I sell through channel A, but I also need to consider different ways that I can sell to get my products and services out there. Does that make sense? So that's what I'm talking about when we talk about online and omni-channel delivery. Regionalization. That means companies are saying, you know what? It's too high a risk for me to have that product imported from another country. I'm wondering if I can pay a little bit more, but I can get it here in Saskatchewan, or if I can get it here in Canada. Why are companies doing that? Before, I'm sure in business, lots of us have said in the past, all things equal, people will often choose the lower price. So if something can be made available, if something costs us normally $1, but we can buy it for 80 cents, a lot of times we would go and do that. And a lot of times that also meant we would offshore. Companies are saying, not anymore. I'm not prepared to have that risk. If I can't get my products in, I can't sell.
Can I make a comment?
Yes,
I'm
please.
getting customers that are requesting that. They are requesting Saskatchewan or Canadian made, and really taking note of where our products are coming from. So that's the other side of that.
Love it, Debbie. So you are a beneficiary of this movement that the companies are saying, let's start moving things a little closer to home. I have no doubt that they love you already. But what I'd also say is that they're protecting themselves, because they know that they're dealing with a Saskatchewan company, and it's their way of saying, we need to be careful, because we don't want big shocks and disruptive activities happening in our supply chain. So I appreciate that. Thanks. Um, so we talked about moving more and more digital, considering the multiple channels. We talked about the regionalization. Some companies are saying, I used to make, maybe it's better that I buy certain products now because it'll save on my time or money in order to deliver. And in reverse. Oh, was there a question coming? Oh, maybe not. Go ahead.
Yeah, I did. Sorry, Nick.
Yeah,
I
go
didn't mean to disturb you.
No, go ahead.
I just wanted to know about supply of PPE and whether which is your personal protective equipment, and where everyone sits on that, and if that supply has got better for everyone in this group, or is there concerns? What, Nick, do you know about PPE? And
I mean, I know pieces. The first thing I'm going to say is in the journey of operational resilience and getting and returning businesses back to business, lots of the very first move was often, well, we need to get PPE and so that we can get things going again. But in truth, I feel like that was actually it was a first move, but it wasn't the big move. We needed equipment the same way we had, concerns of masks. We also had toilet paper concerns and all those other things that we had. The big moves are yet to come, and I think I would actually like to hear around the room here. This is actually my first touch point where I wanted to ask that very question, to say, what's this cohort specifically doing about resilience right now? And this is where I'd love to hear from you. And
like, what are we doing as businesses to stay resilient?
Yes, that's the question. Yeah.
Well, for us, and I know a lot of you are already online, and we kind of fast tracked that. We knew it was something we needed to be getting into, and we fast tracked it in March. And that's, again, we have to be totally, I have to dedicate some resources to that again, and make sure that it's not something that we just, it's got to be a 20, every day of the year kind of thing, not just, fast track it for COVID and then leave it again. It's something we have to really start dedicating some resources and time to.
Totally agree. Yep. Thanks, Debbie, for sharing. I would love to hear from others on this too. I'm seeing some. Oh,
I can.
Yeah, please, Monique.
Okay, so I've gotten into my office now, which is quite cozy. But so there's a few things we're doing to be resilient in operations here. The first is we're diversifying to more countries, because every country is responding differently to COVID. So we've decided that we need to fast track our expansion to other countries, and we're doing that through working collaboratively with other companies that are small to medium size that have complementary work to us. So our normal way of sales has completely had to change, because we no longer have the conferences that we sell through. So we've also been working on different sales avenues. On the people's front, though, also letting people know that they can have unlimited mental health leave if they need to. We've had a few people need to take stress leave for anxiety. It's difficult with COVID going on, so we just are accepting of that and help people work through that.
Amazing.
Okay. That's great. Good points.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Monique. Yeah, like these are the moves that companies are paying attention to, right? How do you mitigate those potential shocks and disruptive events? We seem to be hearing looming conversations even again about this second wave, and that maybe there's a pending lockdown again. So things are happening. Can we hear more from some of the others too, please? Yeah.
For us, I think we remain the same, sort of out front. to the public. So we're still providing the same thing. A lot of restaurants changed what they did or whatever. And I was like, just stay the course, stay the course. But for us to be resilient, it was then like tearing apart everything behind the scenes and going, why are we doing this? And then, and that has actually made all the difference.
I'm so glad you even made that comment about why are we even doing this? Giada, because you actually hit my third point that's coming up shortly here too. But it's really, that's it. You start looking at saying, yeah, well, we used to do it in 10 easy steps, but maybe 6 steps would have done the trick, or maybe we could have done it, by, if you have steps 1 through 10, well, we used to always do 8 in the 8th position. Maybe it should be the 4th position instead. So reconfiguring the way you do things is a big part as well. So diversification, like Monique said, re-examining what you're currently doing and how you're operating. And then in some cases, like Debbie, who saying, yeah, keep it coming. As the more you guys the more you manage you create and establish more resilience, our workload is increased. So we'll take it. Can we hear from others on this? Maybe one more, and then I'll move to the second one.
It's funny that you bring this up, because we have been planning to have a day of strategic thinking around operational resilience, and it keeps getting, like, it's been months and we keep bumping it for just like putting out fires and day-to-day realities. And so this is good, because it's hitting home, and it's making me realize that we do need to sit down and have that day of strategic thinking, especially for us around supply chain risk management. Really, we were hit quite hard in the sense, I think all seed companies in Canada were hit really hard, where we were unprepared for the surge in sales. So we were fortunate in that place, but then it's actually just been, and then we rolled into audit season. And so now I'm finally in the place where we can start to have some of this time and place to have some strategic thinking take place. And then the second thing I want to say on this is we are putting a new inventory management system in place, which is really key for us, because we spend a lot of time with inventory management. So I feel like if we can get that in place before we have a potential new surge in sales this winter, that could really help us.
Awesome. So good. And Lisa, you're actually mentioning some of my other points. Christine, you are in good company. This group seems to have the right things in mind. Let's just make sure that we have all 5 of these key points listed so that everybody's familiar with it. But Lisa, yes, a giant yes. Get that strategic plan done on operational resilience. That is important. And looking at processes, like Beata was saying, these are must-dos. I'm going to move on to the next one now. I realize that time is tight here, so we're touching this, but this time it's not just about how do we protect our supply chain. This is actually talking about just end-to-end digitization. How do you just make things easier for your customer? This isn't even talking about, there might be a disruption to service down the stream. You're asking questions, or hopefully you're saying to yourself, well, it has thus far been a manual process. Maybe it doesn't have to be a manual process anymore. Maybe we can leverage technologies. You are probably all aware and heard the news about how staffing has become a challenge a little bit too. CERB has created interesting challenges as well. And in many respects, it's done a great thing, but we've also discovered challenges that has been posed for people who don't want to necessarily, or are questioning whether they need to return to work sooner or later. Some of that is going to affect you, because you're going to have staffing concerns or staffing challenges as a result of that. So digitization can do a few things. Take a look at how you service your customer, and you say, well, what if normally I always took the order on the phone? what if I now have forms that they can fill out, hit submit, and even pay online? What does that do to my customer? How many of you prefer like when you make a phone call or you want to order a product or a service? Is it not convenient for you to basically go online, go to a form, say, I'll take 3 of those, or I'd like to book this appointment? You give them whether you process the payment or not right then and there is one thing, but even just getting an appointment or getting products ordered, is that not very convenient for you? Like, or would you rather have to pick up the phone between 9 to 5 and hopefully someone's going to pick up that call and get your order in place? Can I hear from you on that?
Well, I will say that I do find it convenient, but I don't use it as much as I could, because I have a storefront and I like people to shop in a store with a door.
Yep.
To quote a radio station that uses that. And so I struggle with that because but I know what the future is, and I know that we have to do this. And with us, it's kind of we got to find that balance, because I do know that going online with a Shopify store March 1st, it's very convenient for our customers and very convenient for us because they do the order. We run into a few challenges with ag, with there's some items that are exempt from certain taxes for farm use, and that's hard to do on Shopify.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost, it needs, I don't know, that we need something a little bit more streamlined or figure out how to do that, which is what my focus is going to be. But and we got to find that balance, because they can buy stuff online, yes, but if they have a sprayer that's leaking chemical on the ground, we have to have inventory on hand too, because they can't wait for it to come, in the mail or however. So that's a challenge for us, is to find that balance and to figure that out over the next while, what we can move to online and how much that affects what we stock in store. That's one thing I'll be looking into.
So I love your comments, Debbie. And one thing I'd like to share is there are tools that are out there that you can use to to fulfill an order. But the better ones, what they do is they also help you manage your inventory, and one step further, they start to be predictive as to what you're going to need. And what companies are seeing is that the more digitized you go, the more of the, so first of all, you can speed up the workflow of getting from I'm thinking about an order to I now have an order. Number 2, digitizing can help with errors and reduction of them. And sometimes what you can do is by even having clients or training and teaching them how to, if they're thinking about ordering some items, just even giving you some indication so that you can prepare for your delivery schedule. Customers companies who are exploring digitization have discovered it's more than just simply an online processor. It's actually a way to optimize inventory and having products available just in time and keeping those customers happy, therefore increasing your revenues as well. So,
and then one other thing is, even I hate going down this road because I like to employ people, but having the information and all the products up on our Shopify store and available for our customers, things have changed with farmers too. They've got a phone in their hand and they're in a auto steer tractor, and they're doing research and shopping right from the cab of the tractor. And that's a huge change from when I first started this business.
So 100%. So the question will be, do we want to meet the customer with their expectations, or do we not want to? And I think the answer is apparent, right? Because it makes sense. So this is why end-to-end digitizing and looking at where things can be done is a big part, and I hope it's part of your priorities too. Can I hear from another person as well here on this and what it looks like in your business?
I had mentioned that we were moving to a new inventory piece of software. So it's a company in Saskatoon that's designing our inventory program for us, but it will now be not linked, but it actually will be our web store. So right now our e-commerce site is separate from our inventory program, and then we import our e-commerce orders, and the import process doesn't always work. Like if there's a typo in a postal code or something, meaning that we have to do manual entry for those orders that don't import properly. And so now when this new system is in place, the customers will be on our website, but they will actually be in kind of the back end or the front end of our inventory program. So everything will be live. So if there's because sometimes we would find that we would be out of stock of a certain SKU over the weekend. So this way, if something's changing with inventory, it's happening live, and we don't have customers ordering things that are out of stock and all of those issues that take a lot of time and are inconvenient for our customers.
And just adding to that comment, the belief is that the time and the expenses that you're incurring to take care of that digitization and making it work reliably, the belief and the understanding is that's going to pay you back, because then companies and businesses will say, well, I know where I'm going to get my seeds from, because they're very reliable, and why I'm crazy to pick somewhere else. So it's only going to serve you well. And I'm going to move on to the next one as well, which is the third one is just talking again about taking a good look at capital and operating expenses transparency. So Beata, this is the one where I was giving you props for, where you actually started to say, here's the beginning of our journey together. Here's the end of the journey together. There's 12 things in the way in order for me to go from thanks customer for hiring us or buying something from us to here you go, do you want more? In between those 12 steps, do you need 12 steps? Maybe you can do this in 8. Maybe what it means is you need to buy either a higher quality product or a product that's more local in order to make it work, but you make more money in the fulfillment. So what I'm getting at here is taking a look and doing what you described, Beata, about your process. It's so important. This is that opportunity where you say, just because we did it that way before doesn't mean we have to keep doing it that way. So I think so. Taking a look at your operating costs to see which ones. See which costs you might look at and say, well, maybe we should be doing it differently. Even if it costs a few cents more, but in order to manage your overall time of delivery, maybe that's worth it. Leveraging operations to support your cash and liquidity activities. What happens if you make commitments with certain vendors or suppliers to say, I'll make this commitment of this size of an order, but I want a better price, or I want commitment that I'm going to get it on time. Stuff like that. Some companies are, when they went into their processes, and I'm just talking about COVID times here. So over the last 6-7 months, companies have found 30% savings in the way that they've been doing business. And then they said, my God, why didn't I do this sooner? All it took was a pandemic in order for me to actually take some time to look at these things. And I'm more profitable than I've ever been. So sometimes, we need to take a good look. Capital planning. Do you need to buy all that equipment right now, or is it better off to lease it? Cut your capital expenditures potentially, or the reverse. If I go for it and buy that equipment, maybe that's actually going to save me more money in the long run. More often than not, companies and businesses are looking at the leasing, but I suppose it could go the other way. What's this look like for you in your business?
I'll talk.
Sheriff Yada, I'm listening. You talk, I'm listening. We're all
This is
listening.
literally the best thing that ever happened. Truthfully, like, you know, a pandemic hits and it's like, oh my God. And then,
Right.
you know, CERB happens and nobody wants to work.
Right?
So like everybody ditches, and then it's like, okay, you have no choice. So then we take over everything and literally get to re-examine every aspect of the business. And, you know, as an example, like just one piece of it, you know, that I like looked at and said, why are we doing this? It's saving us $14,000 a year. Like, that's just one piece, right? So this is where it's at. I love this part.
And it's,
Right.
if I'm hearing, oh, please go ahead, Christine.
No, absolutely, because you know, I think that's happening everywhere, is that employees that you absolutely thought you needed, and you know, many companies have laid, you know, most of their staff off and then decided to rehire. That whole process of re-examining exactly who you need in this new world, I think has become really valuable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the way we looked at it, like we've cut, you know, we used to have about 50 staff, and now we're sort of operating with about 30.
Wow. Huge.
You know, and just sort of realizing where it's like, we don't actually need that. That doesn't need to happen. And the expectations of people can rise, and they will rise to meet it.
One other side of this that I'm wondering about too is we're looking to hire people, and I know CERB is an issue for some, but I'm trying to look at this optimistically, thinking that there are probably a lot of very qualified people that may be out of work right now, and we may be able to, you know, increase our qualified staff at this time better than we have been able to in the past. So that's one thing. I mean, we're looking at hiring probably two to three positions in the next short while, and I'm kind of more optimistic now than I have been in the past about the, you know, the people that are out there that are looking for a job, and that may be there may be more qualified people to pick from. Unfortunately, that's the unfortunate side of COVID, but there's always one door closes, a window opens, or vice versa. So
I couldn't agree with you more. And I think you all seem to have had an early copy of my slides, because over to the next bullet is talking about work and the future of work. Hiring and choosing your staffing to making sure that it meets your requirements on a go forward. What are we going to see coming up? Manual repetitive roles. We're going to see the reduction in those. Skilled requirements are going to increase. You know, if you're the type of business that people can work from home, you know, those technical skills are going to be a big deal. And your staff and your team members who have largely been in the manual repetitive roles, businesses are you know, talking to them and saying, you know what, can you reskill? Like, you're a great person, but this role is shifting, and so is there some way we can have you reskill? Maybe some learning, online learning, in order to boost our skills, some coaching, remote working. Depending on the type of business you have, it's not going anywhere anytime soon, so it's going to be hanging out with us. And then also taking a look at the staff that you need to be locally effective in your business, and then specialist team members who do something very important and unique, but you don't need them on the ground here on a daily basis. Maybe you can leverage those skills remotely. So the conversation about people and staffing, yes, okay, first blush, it sounds like, well, it sounds like we're going to remove people, and therefore isn't that a bad, or a net effect is negative. But no, it's an opportunity for people to learn and to find and diversify their skills. So I mean, no one business, or no businesses in general will not have the same net effect. Some will reduce team members, and it'll stay that way. Some will reduce members, and if they're strategic and business grows, they'll need to hire in different areas of the business. That's okay. That's exactly what everybody's questioning is, how do you do this in a smart and effective way? So I'd love to hear again from the team. How are you handling your people situation?
I can go. One of the things that we focused on huge is really allowing and empowering our entire team to be able to work remotely, and also trusting that we're outcome oriented versus detail oriented, because it was a real challenge at first to make sure that everybody was delivering on their daily work day. But now we're just focusing on, well, if they're getting the work done, then that's the way we're going to do it, because we need to adapt and have the remote workforce in order to survive.
It's 100% correct. And Ashley, I think businesses are all worrying less about where the person physically is located, and just asking the question, is the job getting done? Yes or no? And so I think you're spot on with that. Can we hear from others?
Monique here. Yeah, we've always had the philosophy, like, since we're a business to business service oriented type of company, we've always had the philosophy, work from wherever you want to work as long as you're getting your work done. So for us, there wasn't that much of a shift in that sense. When COVID hit, we were already working in that sense. One of the things that we found, though, is with our people, because we're really light on work right now because of COVID, finding additional internal projects for people, because people want to continue to stay busy and contribute to things. And it's actually been a lot of work to figure out ways to keep people busy. That's been a thing. We've developed a lot of new technology through this, optimized our process procedures, all that. But I think that's been one of our challenges, is keeping people busy. We have them still on payroll because we can't go through the whole retraining and rehiring. It would be too cost prohibitive. So finding ways to keep them busy in the meantime.
Yeah, and on the heels of that comment, Monique, is there ways that you could even look at, and maybe you're doing this already, but as you do value stream mapping and you start to say, how is there ways to do things more effectively and efficiently, you might end up discovering that you could find their talents of greater use in a way that you hadn't necessarily thought of in the first place, as a result of just doing what you're doing right now, which is just re-examining your whole chain.
Yeah, even right now, we call them ninja skills here internally.
Yeah.
But it's essentially, what are your skills outside of what you're hired for? Because
exactly,
if we don't have those needs right now for what we hired a scientist for, because we don't have a project for that scientist, well, it turns out, they also do graphic design as a hobby. So let's get them doing that and doing some of that marketing work. And so we have each person kind of has their own area that they're applying their personal ninja skills to stay busy in the meantime.
Love it. Great. Any other comments to share? Oh yeah, Pieta.
I think one of the biggest things we did was sort of re-examine what we're doing. So there is the expectation for people to sort of, like, once people started coming back, it's like, okay, this is what you're going to do now. But prior to that, it's like, okay, what are we doing? Like, where are we at? Because we're taking this a little too easy, I think. maybe we need to get in there a little bit more, and that there's great benefit. So we really did start sort of at the the sort of shareholder level. It's like, okay, well, let's get this done then, and we're going to do it. And the expectation change for others is easy because they're seeing that we're right next to them doing it.
Good point.
Love it. Love it. Great example.
One comment I'll make is, again, being, I guess, forced back into some roles that I've done in the past, has, opened your eyes to some things that needed to be done and need to be worked on and whatnot. So that's one thing that this has. One positive thing that can come out of this too is kind of walking back in those shoes again to fine tune a few things and to change a few things and get things rolling the way they should.
It's the right thing to do, and also the right time to do it, because you can find those efficiency gains in the way you're operating your business, and it doesn't all have to be a stark, dark situation. It can be very positive, and you'll come out of the other end of this in a very positive position. So I'm going to take you to the last one. Whoops. And now I'm going to take you to the last one, is reimagining sustainable operations competitive advantages. Traditionally, what we often see is that leadership decided, well, this is the business we're going to be in. Marketing might have had a role in saying, well, who's the target audience? And let's make sure that we're attractive to them. And then everybody else who actually was responsible for delivering didn't really touch or connect with the customer. You were just supposed to do what you're supposed to do. Companies are saying, well, just a minute, how do we take ops, creating sustainable competitive advantages from doing that? What's that mean? It means that, whoops, I keep hitting the button, I'm sorry. What it means is customer expectations are changing, demand patterns are changing, industry structures are changing. So there is dramatic shift in the way things are happening, and companies are saying, well, if it's going to change like that, and the way people and our customers and our clients are looking for things, then we're going to have to adjust and adapt. That's the main idea. This wasn't just supposed to be a, whoops, I keep doing that. I'm so sorry. Here, I'll keep touching this page there. Yeah, as businesses continue to and your customers continue to re-examine what they want, sometimes rather than looking at the at marketing or the leadership to make the determination as to what our next change is coming from, sometimes we need to start looking at operations and saying, a client always asks for things to be done a certain way. They are asking for social or environmental requirements. There's a way for your operations to help drive where your business is going. Is there a specific technology or a market niche that you should be focused on that you need to implement because everybody's asking for it? Maybe you didn't do it before. Maybe you do now. Maybe you bring in products or certain types of products that have a special function or feature that you never did before, but it makes sense because your customers are asking for it. Looking at the way that you're doing things in business, what if it makes more sense for you to take on a little bit more of that distribution, so that you can get products to clients and customers faster? Maybe you had traditionally relied on a wholesale relationship or a retail relationship with other parties, but now you're saying, well, maybe I can just sell it direct as well. Maybe there's a strategic advantage if I did that, because then my customers will get products faster and therefore they'll appreciate us more. Maybe you need to take a look at how you create products and services in the first place. Agile methods. What agile is, I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with that concept, but it's a very popular methodology, very popular in software development as well. And the idea is that sometimes the end in mind is so far away that it makes more sense to continue to find ways to be efficient in smaller chunks. So rather than if you have a 30-step process, maybe step one is just to get the first 5 as efficient as possible. And then maybe 6 through 10 can be done in as efficiently as possible. So looking at ways to say, how can we keep reinventing or inventing efficiently, and looking at those digital connections? Is there a way to do things to get delivery faster to your customer? The last one that I want to bring up too is relationships. It used to be that your third party, like you might sub some of your work, or maybe you have another partner that you have used for the longest time. They may become very strategic to your operations, as opposed to, well, we know we're not going to do it, so we sub it to there. Why? Because they're cheaper. Well, maybe you're going to start looking at to say, I sub it and I have to be more careful as to who I'm choosing to sub to, because it's more than just simply saving $1. It's a bigger problem than that. I need to make sure that they're reliable and stable. So don't be surprised if you start looking at these things and you start saying, I wonder if there's a better opportunity there, because other companies are doing that now. Everyone's saying, it used to be operations was just supposed to do what management said, and marketing identified the client. So therefore they just do it. But now ops is really coming to the table to saying, how do we deliver and fulfill client and customer satisfaction in a way that we couldn't before? Does that make sense? Love to hear from you. I'd like to hear from you on that too. Is could you see yourself making changes where your operations have ultimately affected the way that you're going to deliver and make your customers happy?
It's funny how necessity is the mother of invention, because even supply issues through COVID here has made we belong to an automotive buying group, but certain things they were doing during COVID had affected our supply. Yep. And we went outside the buying group and negotiated our own buying conditions directly with these suppliers, because what they were doing was slowing down or stopping completely our supply on certain items. So it's made us have better buying power, for one thing, because there's a cost involved buying through the buying group that is not there now that we've negotiated outside the buying group. Mm-hmm. So it's made me realize that maybe I should be doing more of this. That it really makes me look at what the buying group is doing for me, and do I really need them as much as I used to? So that's one thing I'm going to be looking more into.
Re-examining your partners, your collaborators makes total sense, and in the long term, I based on what you just described, I don't know if I see you sort of when COVID starts to settle down or we have a vaccine, I don't see you getting particularly excited about going back to the buyers group.
Well, it certainly has made me, they've done some things that I don't know if they overreacted to COVID or if there was other things going on, I don't know, but it's forced me to go outside or go bypass them and go right to the supply myself. And it's worked out okay. I guess maybe in the past I've thought, well, I don't stand a chance of getting the best, the same deal that I would get through the buying group, but this has made me realize that, yeah, I can, and I should look into it more with more of my suppliers.
Pricing and also reliability, right? The where your supplies are coming from makes all the difference in the world, and so something you have to pay attention to. So, go ahead. I think I heard. No, maybe not. Okay. I'm going to shift over. Those were the 5 priorities that I wanted to make sure that we spoke about today. So again, are you paying attention to your resilience to make sure that those bumps along the way, you're doing something to make sure that they don't negatively impact your business? Are you looking at things in your business right now where you say, you know what, maybe we could digitize that. Maybe it doesn't have to be a phone call. Maybe it could be a form. Maybe we could do things differently, inventory support, so that it can actually predict how much inventory I need, as an example. Are we looking at where we're spending our money carefully? Are we doing that value map that Beata was talking about too, and saying, you know, I can do the same thing, I can deliver, and I can do it faster or more effectively if I just do it differently? Future of work. Do we have the right people in the right roles? Some of those roles may not exist in the going forward, but on the other hand, am I prepared to reskill those individuals? If I'm not prepared to skill them, I may lose them. But if they're good people, and as Monique describes, if they've got ninja skills, maybe they've got maybe there's a way to make it work, and people will be known for different capacities in Maven, as an example. Reimagining sustainable operations and competitive advantage. Reimagining the sustainable operations competitive advantage. You're putting the time into making sure that you're more effective and more efficient. How do you translate that into making it more effective and valuable to your customer? Those are the 5 things that I absolutely wanted to make sure I imparted today during this time in our world where COVID is amidst us. Operationally, we're saying, what are our next move? I'm showing you 5 best practices around the planet as to what companies are up to. That's the end of my presentation. So I would like to ask, so open, to have any dialogues that anyone would like to talk about too. We did lots of that already, so which is great. Next steps that I might suggest is think about those themes, those 5 themes that we talked about. You are starting your roundtables probably in short order here, so have those conversations. And if you ever want to talk to somebody here at WESC, reach out. And these are the conversations that we have all the time. So with that, I present to you 5 operational themes that you should pay attention to.
Thanks, Nick, so much. That was great. Any questions